It's good afternoon and welcome to our Hamilton Enterprise Holding Corporation shareholder meeting. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are webcast live by the City of Hamilton and temporarily archived on the city's website, as well as a reminder all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function. Madam Clerk, on the agenda, are there any changes to the agenda, please?
No, Mr. Mayor, there are none.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Powers. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Not seeing any. All in favor? Electronically. Thank you. And a thumbs up from the esteemed Councillor Jackson, Deputy Mayor for the month of December. Another thumbs up from Councillor Farr. Thank you. And Councillor Powers. I think we got all the thumbs.
We're out of camera, Stephen. Just finishing up my second meeting.
Okay, and your microphone's on, Councillor Pearson, I think. There you go. And we are, Madam Clerk, good?
Sorry, microphone was on my head. That carries 9-0. Thank you.
Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Not seeing any. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting that was held June the 10th, 2021. Yeah. Do you have any questions on that? Those minutes, a mover, Councillor Farr, thank you. Second by Councillor Pauls. Okay, thank you. All in favor then, electronic vote if you can. Thumbs up if you can't. Thumbs up by Councillors Jackson, Powers, and Farr.
Carries 9-0.
Beautiful, thank you. And we're going to turn to the shareholder resolution. The number of directors, obviously this is a change to the number of directors that will allow for an appointment of a private director in the second recommendation. So on item 4.1, I have a mover and a seconder for it. Councillor Jackson, thank you. Councillor Danko, I move that we adjust the complement to 7. Councillor, question?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, this came up. I think it was at Emergency and Community Services. Our procedural bylaw indicates that we can't appoint new people to our advisory committees if it's 12 months before an election. But I believe that this one is a private corporation that has different procedural bylaws. Can I just get confirmation? Because I have no doubt that someone's going to ask about it in public since we turned down an increase in numbers on another committee.
Clerk Paparella,
I'm so sorry.
Put light on the difference between this and the regular
This is a board,
right.
not an advisory committee, so you are fine in this
which overruns term of council, continues on.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you very much. I thought we should make it public.
Yep, that's great. Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
The chair, is there a rationale provided for this?
Some rationale is to appoint an additional member. So my understanding in the report, it says that we're entitled to appoint 1 to 20 members of a board. This is actually moving the board from 6 to 7
yes,
to
I
allow for an
understand.
appointment of a private director.
Yes, I understand. I'm just trying to identify the need, and I didn't see it in the report.
And is there anyone here, Madam Clerk, that can speak to that?
I don't know if Mr. Tugman has made it in. Let me just see. If you want to give him a minute, he might not know we've started.
Okay.
Sure.
Should he not be available, can we get that clarity prior to council? Because this will have to, no, this is going to be ratified here, isn't it?
No, it does go to council, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so is that something that if he's not available that we can get clarified prior to council?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, if I was asked, I wouldn't be able to give an answer, and it's not set out in the report, so I would
Fair enough. So
I might have an email from him early, or I might actually be able to tell you if you want to hang on one quick second.
Okay. In the meantime, I have Councillor Powers for a comment, so I can turn to him to get that comment, and then we can come back. Councillor Powers.
I don't understand the rationale why, but certainly from a governance standpoint, it's advantageous to have an odd number of directors so that you don't end up with tie votes. So that may be the rationale, but certainly from a proven governance model, odd numbers on the boards is a preferred direction.
Like
That's true.
16.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, his email didn't explain the rationale.
Okay.
It just said the
Mike,
process. They went.
Mike, I see you pop up, so do you have any, shed some light on this? You're still on mute, Mike, so we can't quite hear you just yet. And that'd be Mike Sigarik, our Chief Financial Officer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Mike Sigarik, General Manager of Finance Corporate Services. My understanding is that previously there were 7 directors. 1 director departed in 2020, departed in that they left the board, and they are just looking to reinstate the previous practice of having 7 directors.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. I don't want to get into the weeds. I just would have assumed it would be to fill a vacancy, but the way you've positioned it, Mr. Zagaric, is that the report seems to be intimating they're adding a new seat. Just trying to understand that.
I think through you, Mr. Mayor, that they had 7. Somebody left, so they reduced it to 6, and now they're bringing it back up to 7. I believe that's what Mike Zagaric was trying to say.
In the interest of clarity, and let's get that from Mr. Tugman prior to council so that everyone's can be on the same page in terms of how this is unfurling. But if we can get approval of this, and if it needs to change for any reason, we can make that change at council. So on item 4.1, everyone okay to move ahead? Okay, thank you. On 4.1 then, all in favor?
The vote is up still.
Thank you. And thumbs up from Councillors Jackson, Powers, and Farr. Thank you.
That vote carries 10.
Thank you very much. And then item 4.2 is the appointment of a director. Your director is named in the report, as you well know. Are there any comments or questions on it? And can I get a mover and seconder to put it on the floor, first of all? Moved by Councillor Vanderbeek, thank you. Second by Councillor Pearson. Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
So I'm just looking for clarification on our responsibilities. It is to accept the nomination. It's just that I'm sure the person is extremely qualified, but there's no CV or any identification offered. So I'm just trying to understand what is our statutory or legislated responsibility on this. Thank you.
Mike, well, since you're here, could you, I mean, at least it's consistent with past practice, that's for sure. And we've always allowed the boards to do the interview process and make the selection based on what they think their board requires. And we've essentially, for all intents and purposes, have approved without getting into the application process. So, Mike, if you could.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, you're correct. The city as shareholder must confirm the recommended board member, and the role as shareholder is again to confirm the recommendation of the HACO board, and the HACO board has a responsibility of the recruitment and confirming the member, and then they put forward a resolution to the shareholder for your consideration.
Yeah, and we have, I see Lori Tugman, the chair of the Huck board with us. Welcome, Lori. And so there were 2 questions, Lori. On the first one, why from 6 to 7? And secondarily, a question around, I guess, why this individual and what has been the past practice in terms of our confirming the recommendation that you're putting forward.
Okay. Sorry, the second one again was?
So I think normally past practice, as Mike just identified, has been that you do the interview process, you go through your application process, you pick the candidate that you believe is suitable to fill out your board, whatever that requirement is, and council has generally confirmed, I guess, generally without question, the recommendations you've made.
Yeah, and that is correct. I think I caught the last of Mike's explanation on the 7 board members. That is the norm to make sure that we've got good continuity as directors come and go from the board, as well as to make sure that we've got all of the skills that we feel necessary to provide good governance and advice to the corporation is there. So we had a resignation, and so it was dropped to 6 because we had the resignation, and we're now asking to go back to 7. We had a robust process to select a director, which we've used before. We've used a search firm. That position was advertised. They provide a short list against our matrix of skills that we're looking for. In this case, one of the specific skills was that we wanted a second professional accountant on the board to make sure that skill was there. And so we've found that individual who's a resident of Hamilton with a stellar resume, and we are putting her name forward today.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other comments or questions of Lord
Yes,
Tugman?
yes, still me. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much for answering those questions. And I think both you and Mr. Zagirik said our responsibility is just to confirm that's the case. Yes.
Yes.
And you did reference your matrix, your selection matrix. So I'm assuming if I go on your website, and I apologize, I didn't do that before this meeting, I would be able to see the makeup of the board and your values. So whether in your matrix you have we at the city are committed to equity, diversity, and inclusion, and you're guided by those same principles, perhaps.
That is very much sorry, to the mayor, through the mayor.
Yep.
That is very much on the matrix as one of the considerations in terms of the criteria that we look at is diversity. There's quite a number of items on the matrix, but that is certainly one of them.
Thank you for your answers. I'll go to your website and look at your board makeup. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just get clarification then? Because it sounds like we're just supposed to rubber stamp who's going to be appointed to the board. And I'm not trying to be the stick in the mud here, but do the shareholders have any responsibility in terms of who gets appointed to the board or what goes on at the board? I'm trying to understand our role in terms of governance, because I don't have a CV, so I don't know who this person is, and I am sure they're stellar, but I'm trying to understand our role, because usually in my mind, I say we trust, but we verify, right? And so I can't verify here.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a shareholders declaration in terms of the authority that you from the city appoint to HACO to the board. And so it's our responsibility as a board to go through the selection process of finding directors, but as shareholders, from a good governance point of view, it's the shareholders' responsibility then to appoint those nominees that we put forward to the board. So yes, it is, and that's probably a fairly common practice is that a search is done. You can certainly decide whether or not or challenge us in terms of how the search has been done and how we've arrived at the nomination, but you're ultimately making that final decision to approve the candidate that we're putting forward as the director.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Mayor, so what I would suggest in the future then when we're looking at that is that we would get the final decision from the board. We would have a CV for that individual, and we would go in camera to receive all of that information and then make a determination whether or not we agree to what they're suggesting. Otherwise, we're simply rubber stamping without having any knowledge of their experience. So I just leave that as a suggestion for the future. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We did have a mover and seconder on the appointment. Remind me what it was, and thank you, Laurie, for dropping in.
So sorry, Councillors Vanderbeek and Pearson.
Thank you. And there was an electronic vote up for all those in favor, and for those with thumbs up, I see Councillors Powers, Jackson, and Farr. Thank you. And Partridge.
I think I lost Councillor Partridge in there.
I see her on the screen, but
No, I'll have to retake the vote. My apologies. She wasn't able to join right away, so we kind of
Okay.
lost her there. Of course, now it's not going to let me reopen the vote.
she was doing a thumbs up vote in any event.
Okay, I'm going to, I will correct it on my end. It will be unanimous 11-0.
Okay. Thank you for that. And there are no further items on this agenda, so I will take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Pearson, second by Councillor Vanderbeek, and seconded by everyone else as well. All in favor, electronic, from Councillors Powers, Farr, Jackson, and Partridge.
Oops. That carries, Mr. Mayor. 11-0. I will change that as well. Partridge, you're still not showing, sorry.
Oh, why?
I will fix it.
We'll go for thumbs. We'll take the thumbs up.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Oski,
Go Cats, go.
Merry
Cats,
Christmas,
Go
Jeff.
Cats, go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
Cats,
Hope you're
go.
feeling better.
Save your voice, save
Thank
your
you so
voice.
much.